North Carolina Town, North Carolina zoning board meeting for January 5th. Thank you all for your attendance. Laura, can we have roll call, please?
Scott Stopnick,
Here.
Bob Greer,
Here.
John Stepo,
Here.
Lester Berkelhammer,
Here.
and Joe Monacelli.
Here. The last minutes, any correction to the minutes? Do we have, if there isn't any, could I have a motion to accept the minutes?
I wasn't here.
I'll
accept.
Accept,
I'll second.
but John accept and Bob second.
Okay.
Lori does the minutes. They're always perfect.
They're always good.
Oh,
Oh, Bob, you're pushing so hard.
Can you read the first application?
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
we're gonna open the
You're
public
looking
hearing.
good.
We're gonna open the public hearing on David's Street.
Straight.
Yep. 6 Sniffen Road, Armonk, New York, 10504, and known on the town tax assessment maps as section 10104, lot 2, lot 35, and located in an R 1.5 acre zoning district. In order to construct an in-ground pool and expand existing patio, the applicants will need the following variance from the town code. The maximum gross land coverage per section 355 26C 1B is 11,630.77 square feet, where 15,298.39 square feet is provided, requiring a variance of 3,667.62 square feet.
Your name, ma'am?
Evening, my name is Chris Broda, Broda. I am the architect for the project. And Happy New Year to all of you.
Same to you.
So, the site, blew this up in color so you could see this a little bit better, but the site is a previously subdivided lot from the house next door, as David was saying before. It's an unusual site in that it's really this kind of long triangle. And there's, the site has a lot of rock on the left side of the property. The lower side here is septic fields and so on. And the house is situated seemingly, across the middle, but because of this long dip here, there's a lot of driveway that goes into the street here. We're locating our project in the back of the property. We want to take what's an existing patio there and extend it and add a pool. And we've got some pretty strong constraints here. You can see this red line here is the restraint from the septic fields by the Department of Health Standards. And then this is the setback from the town zoning code. So we squeeze that guy right into the middle here. So we are asking for this variance because as the house is currently, when the Stripes bought it, it's actually already 1,400 square feet and change over the amount of coverage allowed. So any kind of additional work would just immediately bring you into a need for a zoning variance. One component of the variance that we're looking for is to add a little bit of a play area here for a basketball hoop. Right now they have a basketball hoop that's right in front of the garage, but obviously with little kids, that's not really safe to have it where the garage door is. So we'd like to take an existing garden that's there and pave that section. And then we'll take the existing patio and make it a little bit bigger and have it surround the pool a little bit. I brought some renderings here as well for you to look at. These are the same, so take a look at those. That shows what our intended design is for the backyard. We are kind of squeezed up here on top of this hill. We have this wonderful sort of sheer drop of rock. That we've got some existing stairs on there that we want to reconfigure because right now they're pretty unsettled.
Where is that on
There. The rock is right here along this edge of the house. And the pool will be next to it. There are some stairs right now that go down, and those guys are pretty steep and very uneven and very dangerous for little kids to go back and forth. So
So you're gonna put new stairs in?
yes, we're gonna carve some new stairs into the rock. That will straighten it out a little bit. Right now, there's a barbecue that is at the edge of the patio. It's right in this location here. This is a blow up of the patio that we will have there in the pool. There's a barbecue right here that's at the top of these stairs that go down. That's right next to where the septic tank is. The septic tank is located in this section, so it's actually in violation of the Department of Health. So we're proposing to take that and move it over to the other side near the driveway. And that way we're not in violation. This red line is, you can't build anything within there that's a permanent large structure. Patios are okay, they're allowed, but anything like a pool and any kind of real structure really shouldn't be there. So we're moving the barbecue and going to straighten the stairs out and make them a little bit longer, a little bit more evenly spaced, so that they're much safer and have rails.
Where's the garden now?
The garden right now is where we're going to extend this driveway in that we want to put the basketball hoop up for the kids. So that's here in this location right here. It's off this sheet, but it's right here.
Did you have a secondary place you might want to put it?
We are looking at a lot of options for landscaping. There's some nice opportunities through here. There's a lot of trees along here, along the property line. So some of that's too shady and it's a little tough to grow things in there. This is facing north. So it's a little bit tough to be a garden, but there's more. We are going to be, instead of where that barbecue is and where the septic system is, we're gonna put some plantings, some shrubs there. You can see it on the rendering. We'll have some-
How nearby, Lori, has anyone contested this?
No, I haven't heard from anyone.
Okay, and how nearby are any of the neighbors in terms of who's it, what neighbor, if any, has the closest proximity?
Well, if you're standing looking at the house to the right, down a pretty steep hillside and through a lot of woodsy area on the property.
So there's no
There's a
sight
house
line.
there, you can't see.
You can't connect.
Back here, nobody can see it.
Okay,
Over here, on the left, the house that had subdivided the property. Their house is somewhat forward, they're closer to the road,
right,
so where we are is equivalent to sort of deep into their backyard.
mhm,
And they have a garage on this side, so really they're sort of, when they pull in, they're sort of facing that way into the garage.
right,
So it's their backyard, but it's not where their patio is. It's
Okay.
not where anything like that. So we're really not close to it. And there is pretty dense shrubbery and trees along the property anyway. So we are going to make sure that we have that nicely planted for privacy for the family anyway.
right, okay,
So that's what we'll be doing with it.
thank you for that.
So the basketball court, you couldn't put it any other place where you wouldn't have to add to the amount of square footage you're asking for.
Well, we really don't want the kids to be playing anywhere in the front of the house. It's down the hill. These are quite a significant amount of steps up to the house. So you certainly don't want to locate it anywhere here where, there's in the drive. And once you get up here and you're driving in and out, there's really not another space. Right now, the hoop is in the driveway, and that certainly prohibits anybody driving in and out of the,
This is acre and a half zone?
yes, it
Acre and
is.
a half.
Anybody else have any
I don't
questions?
have any.
So I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
will you close? the public
Yeah,
hearing?
we're gonna close the public hearing.
What was the statement for? Oh.
So you can.
All
Yeah, he
We
did.
just did now.
Okay. I'm going to make a motion that we grant the requested variance of 3,667.62 square feet as requested by the application based on the following position. One, there will not be any desirable change in the character of the neighborhood. The swimming pool is not going to be within sight of the road. And as been explained here, it's been properly landscaped within the total environment of where the pool is going to be located, as well as the enlargement of the patio, or the variation of the patio. So as far as the first criteria, there'll be no change in the character of the neighborhood. There's no basis to conclude that the benefit could be achieved by a method feasible for the applicant to pursue, because the swimming pool is a unique situation in and of itself. It is not a really, while there is a requested 3,667 square feet variance, the lot is 11,000 and change large.
It's a 31% variance.
Pardon me?
31%.
I feel I don't hear you.
31% variance.
31%, okay. I do not consider that in the motion that could be a substantial request. There's no basis to conclude that it will have an adverse effect or impact on the neighborhood or the district. And while it's self-created, that by itself shouldn't be a basis to deny the grievance or deny the variance request.
Do we have a second? John. Roll call, one.
Scott Stopnick,
Yes.
Bob Greer,
Yes.
John Stevo,
Yes.
Les Berkelhammer,
Yes.
Joe Monticelli.
Yes. This is in back of the house, right?
Yes, it's
Back.
definitely in the back. It's not at all visible from.
You already voted for it.
Yeah, it's already done at this point.
That's why you want to move
You
it
could
to
have done
the
that
front?
before the.
Mine's in front of them.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Your name, sir?
Sure. My name is Dean Pushler, landscape architect for Igor and Alyssa Petrenko, 33 Woodland Road.
Okay, Joe, you want me to open the public
Please
hearing?
open the public hearing, please.
All right, we're gonna open the public hearing. Or is it Igor or Igor? You know?
Igor.
Petrenko? Igor
Igor,
Petrenko. 33 Woodland Road, Bedford, New York, and known on the town tax assessment maps as section 9504, block 1, lot 3, and located in an R2A zoning district. In order to construct an in-ground pool, the applicants will need the following variance from the town code. Pursuant to section 355-15L, the lot needs to be 3 times the minimum lot size for a pool to be located in the front yard. The lot size is 2.169 acres, where 6 acres is required, needing a variance of 3.831 acres.
Go ahead, sir.
As I said, my name is Dean Pushler, landscape architect for the client. As you can see, the lot is almost a flag shaped lot. Comes down a narrow driveway, opens up into this triangular shape. The driveway comes down and around and services almost the back of the house. So that the pond, there's a pond here. So the backyard overlooks the pond. So this is essentially the front of the house if you were to arrive there. This being the back of the house. So there is a pond, there is a wetland. We did receive approval from conservation for the site plan. So we have a lot of restrictions on the property. We have the setback from the side yard. We have this is a rear yard setback. And then for a swimming pool, we have to be 3 times the distance from the front yard and 3 times the lot size. So we do have 3 times the front yard distance, but we don't have the 3 times lot size. It's kind of a unique situation. The property does slope from here down. So it's probably why they put the house in this location. So this driveway could be level around here. this area here, which could have been a potential site for septic. We have the existing septic here and the septic reserve here. There's really not a better spot to put the septic reserve, and we have the setbacks from the septic system. This is a ledge up in here. So really, this area in here is the only open area. If you can look at the, it's kind of small, but there's lawn here now. This is all trees up in here. So this kind of seemed to make sense. It was close proximity to the backyard. So it's not adding a lot of patio to get there. And again, it's a unique situation with a pool and the placement of the house in this location. You can see in the aerial photograph, this is the house here. Here's the pond. And this is the neighbor's house that's probably in the closest proximity. Got in the direct line. We do have a full planting plan that's been approved by conservation. We have evergreen trees going in here. There are existing deciduous trees that in the summertime will be full of leaves, which has pretty good skin. This house is really uphill and through a lot of trees, so really
Is that flat land?
it's really uphill. Here where the pool is,
But your whole property is flat or?
it's pretty sloping. Yeah, this is a walkout basement, so this will be at the basement level. 3 feet below the basement level, and then this is 4 feet lower than that. So this driveway is essentially about 8 feet above the pool. So it does slope pretty significantly down. But we do have slopes. It's 2 acre zoning, so we would need 6 acres. And that's pretty much it.
Now, that's the front of the house right there. Point
So
to the front.
this is the front door right here. This is the driveway that loops around, so the garage is here.
And your pool is where?
Here.
So that's the back, no?
It is the back, but it's because the cul-de-sac is here, this is considered by planning and zoning the front.
Well,
At least that's what happens.
Yeah, a couple of questions here. You're looking for a substantial variance.
Substantial.
It's a little touchy because it's a front line issue,
Mhm.
so therefore presumably would add, there's a special provisions with regard to the variance for a front line.
Yeah.
Pool. So those are two things frankly that concern me,
Mhm.
the substantial aspect of the fact that it's front line.
So I'm sorry to cut you off. What's interesting is on a corner lot.
Mhm.
You can have a pool between the street and because that side yard. It's,
That's
so
not-
right here,
That is not true. Because you, on a corner lot, you would have 2 front yards.
I don't think 100%.
Okay,
There's a pool right here, right there. There's a street there and there's a street there. So that, I believe in the zoning code. You can determine which front yard is side or front.
well, I think the building inspector decides that.
Okay,
That's my, building inspector is on the meeting, so maybe he'll tell us.
right. So it's not this situation. We're in a totally different situation because we don't have a corner lot. But
I know
it
you don't
is
have a corner lot,
interesting that it.
But your request is for a substantial, it's a really substantial variation here.
Right.
Which is a problem that I have.
Are there any neighbors concerned about any of this?
I don't believe so. We've
And-
not.
No one's put anything in.
And in terms of if the pool were there, who could see it? You know, in terms of a neighbor.
Yeah, really, the only neighbor would be this neighbor here. Their back of their house overlooks the pond, kind of faces away from our property. It looks like. And we're proposing
Right there, point out, yeah, that's, where would the pool be?
right here.
Okay, and there'd be screening
Yeah. we have a
between the,
whole-
between the pool and that neighbor?
So here's the landscape plan
Lester,
here.
look at this.
So this is the pool. And essentially, this is an enlargement of this area. Evergreen trees all through here. To really, to give the pool area privacy and also to provide a little privacy from that neighbor. So this has to go in per our conservation. This one's,
So once that's done, there's no neighbor look, sightline,
no,
once that's accomplished.
no, and there's deciduous trees in through. Too, so it's fairly quick.
So technically, or practically. It's in the back of the house.
It's their backyard.
Yeah, it's the backyard, in terms of the way the house is constructed.
And there's really no alternate, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I don't know, why is it on the?
That's what I'm saying, it is in the backyard,
It's
The
in,
town planner said.
They
it's
consider it the
backyard.
front.
Yes,
because
it's 100%. If you were to drive through that,
Yeah.
property,
will be.
you would think it's a.
Here's the
Yeah.
notation from the planning board,
No, I know.
where they make,
Land.
they make a recommendation.
They make a
They
recommendation.
call it a front yard, but
Call it
it's
front yard, but it's
practically
not.
speaking, it's the backyard.
you walk out the back of the house to get to.
The recommendation from the planning board. They give us-
Lester, read that.
Why did they call it a front yard then?
Well,
Because of the situation of the drive coming in. It's a technical.
Where the street is.
Practically, the house is built, it's in the backyard.
Correct.
Because Woodland Road is here
He was just.
and the house is here. Because it's situated between the front of the house, basically this line. If it was behind this line, it'd be okay. But because it's in front of this line, actually this line.
You'd be going out the back of the house to get to the pool.
Front of the house, really,
Well, no,
He's reversing what you.
because this is the front door.
no, but to get to the pool.
Yes, we are currently going out the back. We would.
No, I'm saying if you
Once it's
walked in
done.
the house
Mhm.
and the pool was there, you'd go through the house out
To
the
go to
back.
out the back to get
Yes.
to the
I-
pool.
I- That's
Yeah.
what I was trying to
Yes,
say.
yes, sorry, yes. So it is a unique situation.
should have gave him a few martinis when he came. Switches around.
You get those when the pool's. built.
Um,
Wes, do you have any other questions?
What do you think?
I think it's too big a variance request, I just don't go with it.
Joe, open it up to the public.
Yeah, well. Anybody at home that'd like to discuss this application? I don't know. We have anybody on?
No, just, we don't do.
Anybody in the audience would like to? Don,
I'm okay with it.
you okay? That's,
Well, that's okay, you're entitled to your opinion. Right.
he'll make the motion, but we have two against it.
Maybe what,
Four.
you want a resolution?
You don't want.
No, we're all right. We're gonna, Leslie, you're gonna make a motion.
I am,
Are you, if
Are
you're,
you, or
if you're not, I
If
would.
not, someone else will.
I know, I have somebody else do it.
All right.
All right. From what I heard on this board, or you would go ahead, Scott.
No, I was gonna say, I will. Let me hear you speak and then I'll.
Okay. It is a substantial, very substantial variance, but it is mitigated by the circumstances explained by the applicant about the location of the house, the topography of the property. There doesn't seem to be an alternative for the placement, so that the only alternative to placing the pool where it is seems to be no pool at all, which is an alternative. It is clearly self-created, so, and it doesn't seem to change the character of the neighborhood as it is hidden. And in this town, I guess pools are pretty much around everywhere. So I guess if you base it on the statute of whether the benefit to the applicant outweighs any detriment to the community or any neighbors, there's been no information that any neighbor has been impacted negatively by this. And in fact, the planning board has sent a referral with a recommending consideration approval of this, and that can be taken into consideration by the board. So I would suggest a member make a motion to grant the variance.
I adopt council's application or motion.
Okay, anybody want a second?
I'll second.
You second. We have a roll call?
Scott Socknick,
Yes.
Bob Greer,
Yes.
John Stevo,
Abstain.
Les Berkelhammer,
No,
Joe Monacelli.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank
It's
you,
passed.
thank you, sir.
That was a suspenseful move.
I was sweating.
Huh?
Thank you.
We were sweating.
You did better in the House of Representatives because you never do it. We won't let you do 10 times.
Well, you only get one chance here.
No, we did it.
Which are you reversing then? What's the next one?
The next one is the
Main Street?
fourth.
428 to 436 Main Street.
Main Street.
Next.
you ready, Joe?
Yeah, can we read the
Yeah.
article on it?
Okay, we're gonna open the
Oh,
public
open
hearing
public hearing and read that, please.
for 428, 436 Main Street. Affecting premises located at 430 Main Street, Monmouth, New York, and known on the town tax assessment maps as section 10801, block 6 and lot 24. And located in a CB zoning district. Applicant seeks an interpretation of the building inspector's October 17th, 2022 notice of violation relating to the rental of a store located within applicant's building as a retail store, which was formerly an office use, thereby requiring site plan approval, a building permit and certificate of occupancy as well. Applicant claims the above requirements are obviated by a 1996 area variance granted by the Zoning Board of Appeals. In the alternative, if the building inspector's opinion is upheld by the Zoning Board of Appeals, the applicant seeks an area variance where 20 parking spaces are required and 0 parking spaces are provided on the site.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a statement? here?
Yes, please.
I have spoken some length with the planning board and Mr. Kaufman and Mr. Hollis. And some almost 30 years ago, I was present when the zoning, when Buffy did the application. However, I think it's Mr. Hollis and his client who agreed that we will commence with the area variance consideration. And if that is granted, it's my understanding he will withdraw without prejudice the interpretation request. So my understanding is he will start and explain the 5 factors why he should be getting an area variance, because there are no parking spaces here. And unless they're gonna be dug out or come from the air, there will be none. So is that a fair statement?
It's a fair and accurate statement.
Is everybody all right with that, gentlemen? Is everybody all right with that? What Jerry just said?
There's no alternative.
No alternative. All right.
He's got to make the, he still has to explain.
Yeah, I will. And thank you, P. Daniel Hollis from Hollis, Laidlaw and Simon, attorneys for the applicant. Good evening, members of the board, and Happy New Year to you. Both the building inspector and the planning board are 100% right. There are no parking spaces on the property. There are, in fact, 11 spaces, but they're undifferentiated, they're not marked, and they are not compliant with the code. This is a building, as all of you know it, across from the Chase Citibank, rather, on the corner on Bedford Road. It is our Main Street. It has been there for over 100 years in different iterations of different types of uses within that building. And as Mr. Riley correctly pointed out, we're going to ask this board to consider favorably an area variance for the parking for a property that's been there, been in front of this board for 70 years, literally. Mr. Lander came in front of this board in 1953. because of the parking shortcoming. It wasn't a very good situation then. It wasn't a good situation in 1996, and it's not a good situation today. However, the building is a vibrant part of the economic fabric of Armonk and functions in a very efficient way. So we have to consider the balancing test, the benefit to the applicant as weighed against any detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or the community. And it's obvious that the benefit to the applicant is great. Every time a tenant leaves, up till now, we've had to come and seek variances or deal with the planning board to try to get a new tenant in there. And it usually results in a lost tenancy because of the fact of the inadequate parking. So what we want to do for once and for all is have a variance in place that recognizes that there are 0 legal parking lots where 20 are required. So we're asking for the variance for 20. Now, the substantiality is point number 3, but the substantiality is only mathematical. And given the other factors or criteria matched up with a balancing test, we believe that your board is well within its right to grant the variance. There certainly will be no undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood. Building has been there functioning as it has for 100 years or more. Can the benefit be sought in some other way? Sure. We can tear part of the building down or leave storefronts vacant. Neither one of those alternatives are very good and result in a deprivation of our clients' use and enjoyment of the property. We talked about substantiality. While it's substantial in number, it's not substantial in impact because there's parking, people have parked, they use the stores, they use the offices with no incident over the course of the 100 years plus the building has been there. Number 4, the building will have no adverse effect on or impact the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood. And lastly, the hardship is self-created in that we bought the property with that deficiency in parking present, but our client bought it thinking and relying on that earlier variance, which we're not talking about tonight. The town of North Castle also has its own criteria for the granting of an area variance. They're not identical, but they're similar, and I can go through the criteria, but you'll hear me say the same thing more or less that I just said. The variance is they have a substantiality. A different one that the town has is there's no the effect of any increased population density. That's certainly not the case. This is a commercial property. There's no substantial change in the character of the neighborhood. The difficulty cannot be alleviated in any other way. And in view of the manner in which this difficulty has arose and considering all of the above factors, the interest of justice, which is what we're here for, it would warrant the grant of this variance. So with that said, I would turn it over to you, Mr. Wright.
Before you do that, I have a question.
Sure.
I'm quite impressed by the fact that there was a prior hearing by this group.
Right.
1996.
December of 96, right?
Right,
No,
where they
none of
granted
these
the
guys.
variance under similar circumstances.
Yeah.
And I believe if you read between the various lines, I think the building inspector didn't recognize that would apply here.
Well, I'm not arguing that because what
Well, wait a second, you may not argue it, but to me, it does apply here, and therefore we don't even have to deal with the various criteria you're talking about, which are helpful. Why are we not bound by that prior determination under the very?
That variance took care of one of the stores.
Well, let's leave. Since I'm not going to address that, I'd rather not address that point. Because to respond to you, there's an exhibit of the minutes of that meeting in here, and I've committed to Mr. Riley and to this board that I don't want to get into that because I don't think I have to. I think I am entitled to the area variance based on the record I presented.
Which
Well, I
is an
think-
area variance for the entire structure owned
Right.
by his client, not
Right.
just one little store.
Right.
That's the difference. And this is a matter that's gonna that is before the planning board for site plan approval for the site, which includes, I guess, 5 stores and an apartment. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. And
So that's what it is. It's different.
well, and there's
It's different than the prior.
Correct.
Well, there's a difference of opinion on that because again, the variance makes a reference within it to a singular store, but the important thing in that whole resolution is the reference on the first page of the resolution, which says there is no parking at the premises. So that's the same point I've been making tonight. So we don't need to rehash 1996, although Mr. O'Neill was a great mentor and friend of mine. I cite O'Neill on the law very regularly, but I don't think I have to do that tonight.
So you're looking for a broader,
Yes,
That's
well,
what he-
and
he
clarity.
needs 20 spots for the entire building.
Mhm.
All of his stores in the apartment, he has 0. So the variance that he is requesting, which is basically what the planning board is looking for you to consider, is the whole building.
which is different than the specific issue that we're dealing with here. The limited issue.
No, the limited issue was Manana.
Okay.
The issue you're dealing with here is the entire building,
Okay,
okay?
And in essence,
now, you've also indicated reference to the planning board. What is the planning board looking to get out of this particular?
Well, they
Planning
can't, they,
board, here's the deal, Mr. Hollis's client, the planning board, and hopefully your board, does not want to keep hearing these cases,
Okay,
and nothing is gonna change, okay? There's no one that I know that's gonna come up with parking, nor does Mr.
I understand that.
And it was said as early as 1953, at least one of his predecessor clients said, we don't have any parking, basically.
Yeah,
People-
the deans owned the property then and Mr. Lander
So you're
did the math.
looking- What's the planning board and what you're saying, what they're looking for from this board is a broader finding than just limiting
Correct,
to.
so that they can issue a site plan, so this case will not keep coming up, because the building's not gonna change.
Okay, I understand that. Then I would refer to the fact that you should make the motion in the broader scope rather than
I will
myself on a
propose-
limited motion for this
I will
case.
Propose a motion, the application for this variance is extremely substantial. It's 100% or more. However, there's been no parking for 100 years that is legal.
I understand
conformed
all that.
parking, okay? As Mr. Hollis said, it will not change the character of the neighborhood. The neighborhood's gonna stay the
Agreed.
same, okay? Is there any alternative? The alternative would be to take down the building and make it a parking lot.
I
Okay?
understand all
All
that.
right, no,
He's
this is the
speaking, it's
motion.
part of the motion.
This is the motion. And it self-created, well, it's not, this is one of the cases where it may not be totally self-created because it's existed and the town has let it exist for 100 years, for a century. There's no environmental impact at all by having this, and this will give the opportunity to the planning board to get a site plan, and it will be in the best interest of the entire town, and that's my indication from the planning board, the planner, Mr. Barone, and for all those reasons, I think a motion should be made to grant this variance that's requested.
As described by yourself.
Correct.
Okay,
you closed that here?
Yeah, the public hearings.
Okay, we have a second?
Well, I mean,
Well,
you should ask it to.
Well, first off,
Is
you
there,
should be asking.
did you get, is
There's nobody out, there's no, is anybody in the audience interested in any discussion? Anybody at home?
All right, then you can close the public hearing.
Okay,
Unless Scott
public
has
hearing
something
is
to say.
We should just gonna adopt your motion.
Okay.
All right. Yeah,
We're good.
okay.
I so adopt. That's his motion.
If I might add to it with the acknowledgement that we're withdrawing our request for an interpretation without prejudice.
Yes.
We're withdrawing that, Lord.
Okay.
I'll second that. You second it? Roll
Okay,
call.
Roll call.
Yeah.
Scott Stoppard,
Yes.
Bob Greer,
Yes.
John Stepo,
Yes.
Les Berkelhammer.
yeah,
And Joe Monticello.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. Happy New Year again.
Same
Thank
to
you,
you.
Mr. Riley. Thank you, Ms. Lori.
Right, sir.
Mr. Hollis, Mr. Hollis.
Yes,
Was it 816?
Yeah.
North Broadway.
I'm sorry.
868 North Broadway. You have the, any? word
Yeah,
on
we're
that?
in front of, we're working with the engineer. Joe Rena is the engineer, and there are certain things that had to be done with the ability of the floor to sustain weight. So
It's been over 2 years, so you're gonna have to come back in front of us.
correct? Maybe we should check with, we have an application for a building permit and we are doing the work. We're just waiting for a CO.
but
We-
I think it's. Been
No,
over
no,
2 years.
there's nothing pending before the zoning.
No.
No. Don't worry, Joe.
Yeah. But thank you. I'm, my time in the military, I
Good for an ice cream company.
I missed the Little House, just frankly, the hot dogs and the milkshakes there were pretty good.
Thank you, Colin.
Thank you. Good night, Larry. Good night. I'll see you
I
there.
can go for a motion right now.
Okay. Lori, the next application,
Okay,
Not in trouble.
industrial acquisition.
we're gonna open the public hearing for Basis Industrial Acquisition LLC, affecting premises located at 100 Business Park Drive, Armonk, New York, and known on the town tax assessment maps as section 10803, lot 1, lot 51, and located in a PLI zoning district. In order to construct a 146,792 square foot self-storage warehouse building, the applicants will need the following variances. 1, a maximum FAR permitted on the site for section 355.23 is 0.3, while the proposed FAR is 0.43, requiring a variance of 0.13. 2, the site is required to provide 277 off-street parking spaces pursuant to section 355.57, where only 220 are provided, requiring a variance of 57 off-street parking spaces.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. For the record, Corey Salomon from Zarin and Steinmetz here tonight on behalf of the applicant. Here with me this evening are Paul Sysak from JMC, Chris Michelik, our project architect, and Rob Tricoli, a representative of the owner. Before I get into the application, I know your board has received a number of letters over the last couple of days. And much of that information in the letter and the comments that are made made to muddy the waters and are not necessarily germane to what's before you tonight. What's before you tonight, as Lori said, are just these two variances, FAR, parking. That's what we're focused on this evening. So a little bit of background, the property is located at 100 Business Park Drive, approximately 11.27 acres, PLI zone, currently developed with 62,782 square foot warehouse. Back in 2021, second warehouse building was approved. That was approximately 74,850 square feet. We've come in to amend that application, as Lori said, for 149,000 roughly square foot warehouse building. But we're utilizing the same exact 74,000 square foot footprint. The difference is that we're proposing 3 stories of self-storage, which is what drives the FAR up. But again, from the outside, will look virtually identical to what you see there now. Again, as Lori mentioned, we need 277 parking spaces. We're providing 220, so we need 57 space variance for parking. Max FAR is 0.3. We're requesting 0.43. So it's a 0.13 variance, approximately 43%. We appeared before the planning board at 3 separate occasions. At the last meeting in December, they referred us over to your board. That's how we're here this evening. So, in terms of the location on the property and the height of the proposed building, fully zoning compliant, as you'll recall, your board granted a front yard variance 2 years ago in connection with it. So that makes it as zoning compliant now. As you know, overall standard, as Mr. Hollis just said, benefit to the applicant, detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood. We believe that falls in our favor here. And I typically don't run through the standards for you and just go to questions, but in this instance, I think maybe we'll take a couple minutes and run through some of these standards. So let's start with the big one. Is it substantial? Yes. We're asking for a substantial variance, is not shying away from it. But we don't think there's any negative impacts associated with that. With respect to parking, right? Anecdotally, we all know that self-storage facilities don't, it's not a parking generator. There's not a lot of traffic. You come, you drop your stuff off once, maybe you come once, twice a year. That position is supported by the county planning board letter that I submitted to you guys. They think that 220 spaces is more than is necessary. Recommend that the town changes their parking requirements to accommodate the self-storage use with a lower parking requirement This has the effect of reducing impervious surface, and seeing as this building is near a wetland and a floodplain, we think that's a benefit to the environment. Again, with respect to the FAR, it's 43%. That is a substantial variance, 100%. However, when you look at the building from the outside, you wouldn't know whether there was 147,000 square feet in there or not. And, you know, if I was coming to you before this evening requesting this for office space, I would say, yeah, that's a little crazy, because you're going to have the population in the town is going to, not in the town, but who's going to be coming to the site every day is going to increase. The number of cars are going to increase. But in this case, that's just not the case. It's just a warehouse and a self-storage facility. Population density, again, this is commercial. There is no increase in population density. Undesirable change in the neighborhood. Again, the FAR increase is going to be imperceptible. So we do not believe that's an undesirable change. And the granting of the parking variance, as I said, I think will have a positive impact on the environment, less impervious surface that we're forced to build. We can't obtain the benefit that we're seeking by any other means. Interest of justice, we believe that it will be. We believe that there won't be any negative impact, and it'll be a great benefit to the applicant to be able to put this property to the highest and best use that we can. Again, impact to the aesthetic, environmental, ecological, we don't believe so. We believe that reducing the parking is a benefit, and you know, this is self-created, but that's doesn't preclude you from granting the variance. It's not determinative in the application. So with that, we're here to answer any questions you guys may have.
Back in this letter from the county, it says 78 spaces.
That's what's required for the self-storage use itself is 70.
You have 57 now.
No. We have for the
It says it used it, I think, on White Plains and two other jurisdictions.
Greenberg and Yonkers.
Yeah, that came up with, one was 218 and the other one was 220, I think, as
You need a
satisfactory.
variance of 57.
We need a variance. We're providing 220
Yeah.
and
Yes.
277 based on all the uses on the site.
So
is
that's
what's required.
57.
We need
Right.
57
But
space
I
variance.
just noticed it says 78, requires 78 spaces. Is that an error? or-
There's no, they broke it down by the use of the self-storage use.
Okay.
If you look at our table of uses, requires 78 spaces just for that alone.
Boy, there was other documents involved. This-
Yes, we got two, in opposition. We got two letters with supporting documents in opposition. They were yesterday, I received
Two and
two separate letters from,
opposition.
from notice neighbors.
But was there any other documents from Corey had submitted or anything that we
No.
didn't see?
No,
Nothing that you haven't seen.
Call anybody from the public, because we got a
There's
lot.
nobody from the public. They're
Yes, you
sleeping.
do.
Anybody out home or in the public? No.
Yeah.
No, I want to check. Anybody at home in the public or on a Zoom,
no,
All right.
we don't have the public, just Rob and I.
sir?
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board, council. My name is Darius Shefazada. I'm an attorney in White Plains, representing all the immediate neighbors right there in the along Business Park Drive. Submitted a letter yesterday dated January 4th, setting forth our opposition to the proposal. I want to walk through, if I can, a few things related to the property in and of itself to start, which we think is not hogwash, but is very important to the operations of the current facility that should actually not, you shouldn't even consider their request for the variances here. They are currently operating a outside construction yard. I don't know if you've been by, I recommend you do. The old application years ago, which allowed minor storage in the outdoor areas, is completely changed. We've submitted aerial photographs from the GIS system in the Westchester County that shows an outside construction yard, quite frankly, a junkyard out there. So in and of itself, you know, with the clear violations, we'd ask that you ask your building inspector to go out there and do an inspection of the entire property as it is now and issue them violations if he feels fit. But I think that in and of itself should preclude even considering this application tonight. And it's really telling when you go out there. Secondly, they're asking for a self-storage facility here. Self-storage is not permitted in our view of the zoning code. We've looked at your table of uses in your code and it's not in there. There's no way any interpretation could be made in our opinion that it is. What should happen is the building inspector should look at the code, make a written determination on his interpretation, whether he agrees or disagrees with us is an issue that has to be made in the first instance in writing, filed with the town clerk's office that will allow either us as immediate neighbors or the applicant to appeal to your board. So we think this is way premature to begin with to even come to your board. Going through now the 5 factors. If you can even consider this application, which you think you shouldn't. I think it's pretty clear the substantiality of these 2 variances. You have a 43% variance for the FAR and the amount of parking spaces, I think was 57 or 58, I forget the exact number. What? 57 substantial variances admittedly by the applicant. Self-created, admittedly by the applicant. So we have 2 of the 5 already. Now let's go through the other 3. They are literally wedging this building in here. There is an alternative here. There's an alternative to have 1 building that meets the code. So that's 3, strike 3, they say in baseball, right? They say. So there's plenty of alternatives. Don't wedge this building here. Don't put it right on top of my client's building with a clear cut 215 trees already to place this building right in front of our client's property. That's 4. Now you're definitely out. So what they've done here is completely, not only the use is not right, not only the current operation of the property not right, they're wedging this building in to a small area in this property, which quite frankly, we think is illegal also because now you have a corporate park on 1 lot, which without a subdivision. They've created 2 lots here without requiring the necessary variances that they would need. Parking for the whole site, another issue that is just, this needs to go back. Should deny it outright. If they want to come back and do a subdivision or have a use that's permitted, let them do that. But what they're doing here is just totally improper in our estimation, especially with all these issues about the uses, about the operation. But even if you get to the 5 factors, it's not even a close call. Thank you. I also have our clients here. Mr. Ferrari, would like to come up and you want to go up first and read a letter to you. This was, I believe, filed. If it's not, we will file it tonight with you to consider.
To read it. You got a letter because these materials, Darius, came in the last minute. So if anything, I'm going to suggest to the board that there'll be no decision made based upon the late submission, and that once the application, the public hearing is closed, it will be closed, subject to you having an opportunity to respond in a timely way to Mr. Corey's, what Corey had to say, and that Corey will have the same amount of time to respond to the submissions that are made by yourself, Mr. Ferrari, and the other gentleman. And that time would be when, Lori?
The next
2 weeks
meeting?
before the next,
Yeah, about 10 days before the next meeting, 2 weeks to 10.
well, 2 weeks,
Yeah.
because if it,
Yeah.
and then the board will have an opportunity to make a decision that will not be half-baked. That's my suggestion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I understand, I agree with that because we didn't see the information.
Right.
There's a
And
few
they
things we
should have
haven't
an
seen, we can't make a
opportunity, and this
decision based on, you know,
Parliament should
not-
have an opportunity to read
they
it.
send something like the final, we don't see it. Not in front of us, but thank you for that.
Should we let this gentleman?
Yes, sir.
speak?
Your name, sir.
My name is Patrick McCarthy. I'm the president of Aero Hardware and Parts Company. We're the primary tenant in 130 Business Park Drive, immediately south of the property in question. Chairman of our company, Al Maiolo, is the property owner. And I have a letter from him. I can obviously provide copies. I don't think it's in the record yet.
Not yet. But I'll take them. Yeah, when you're through, I'll take a copy.
Okay, sure.
Okay,
And he writes, to whom it may concern, I am the chairman of Aero Hardware and Parts Company, Inc., and the owner of 130 Business Park Drive. This is the property immediately south of 100 Business Park Drive. I'm writing to express strong opposition to this application, in addition to the objections voiced by my fellow property owners, in particular those that address the matter of how far outside the requirements of the North Castle zoning code this project will be. I have grave concerns about the floor area ratio and its impact on my property. Seems clear that a project of that size and scope will overwhelm and completely transform the look and feel of my property. I must object as well to any plans for outdoor storage, as they would be a significant eyesore to myself and my tenants, as well as any plans for loading, unloading visible to the front of the building. That is visible to Business Park Drive. This project seems to be totally at odds with both the letter and spirit of the business park, zoned as it is for PLI, planned light industry. I very sincerely and respectfully request that this application be denied. Al Mayo.
Laura, you have all these extra copies of, we're hearing about tonight, you have them all,
That's fine, this is fine, thank you.
you have everything that we've heard
So
about.
far,
tonight?
yeah, I have his and I have the other one.
Good evening,
I might go on.
Member Joe, nice to see you. Everybody else, happy new year. And I thank you for the time that you're putting out here to hear this request. I know you get so well paid for your time. With respect to the timing of the letters, I received a public notice on December 24th. And today's January 5th. During that time, we've had Christmas and New Year's. So the response to the letters, I did talk to Lori and asked, how do we present these letters to the board? And she said the packets had already gone out, so there would be no way of getting the letters to you. So I don't know of any other timing that could have been any quicker than what we're doing right now. I have a letter from Mr. Ed Lashins. Ed couldn't be here, he's in Florida, so he wrote a letter. I think you've been copied with him. I do have copies of all the letters. Can I read his letter to you? So it's addressed to the zoning board of appeals. Application of Basis Industrial Acquisitions LLC, to whom it may concern. I am the manager of both 80 Business Park Drive and 84 Business Park Drive Associates LLC. The owners are 80 Business Park and 84 Business Park, respectively. This application affects both of these office buildings. In addition, I am the original developer of Business Park, where Business Park Drive is located. My family acquired Armonk Airport in 1955, and I ultimately converted it into a business park. I had installed the sewer trunk line and the roads and subdivided the land. This included 100 Business Park Drive, the property that is the subject of this application. I had helped obtain the original approvals for the site, which was then sold to H.O. Penn. I also built several buildings in the business park. The entire business park is in the planned light industrial PLI zone. And it is the only land within the town of North Castle that has its zone designation. According to the zoning ordinance, it was intended that this land be developed such that its use is conducted within fully enclosed buildings. Off-street loading areas shall be screened from off-street site view, and that the PLI district must be attractive from all viewpoints. The reason for the visual emphasis is obvious. The property is visible from both Route 22 and 684. The latter addition of Community Park with Business Park Drive as its only access, they made the aesthetics of the business park even more important. I oppose this application because it seeks to increase the proposed building's floor area ratio, FAR, by almost 50%. This request, coupled with the owner's applicant's previous request to be permitted outdoor storage to reduce the front yard requirement of over 50% and to allow truck loading and unloading facing Business Park Drive, makes a mockery of the North Castle zoning code. Of course, the applicant must now also seek a second variance of over 20% in off-street parking due to a need created by first variance request. This is completely contrary to the intention of the PLI zone. Although the applicant's request to add 61,942 feet to their building essentially does not change its footprint, it does change many of the elements surrounding the development, i.e. environmental footprint. There must be changes to the building structure, floor loads, elevators, fire safety, lighting, climate control, loading, plumbing, and much more. Some of this could create additional burdens to the town. Over time, this is inept and flow to the demand of the types of real estate What will happen when the demand of 61,942 square feet of additional floor area earmarked for self-storage, in addition to the ground floor of 30,971, no longer exists? Most likely, the building owner will seek to change the use of the space with or without a permit. This could even occur with just a few vacant storage units. The PLI zone permits many alternative uses, such as offices and recreation centers. Such uses have parking requirements that far exceed the parking shown in the applicant's proposal. This overburdened site will now be able to accommodate the parking of the resilient traffic. For this reason stated, I respectfully request that this application be rejected in its entirety. I'd like to also read my letter. First of all, I've been a resident now of the town almost 50 years. I've made a great deal of investment in the town, as well as the building directly across the street from this property, known as 99 Business Park Drive. There we have an Equinox, a great gym, and White Plains Hospital. When I bought that piece of property, the front of the property and the entire building was vacant for a long time until I was able to find a tenant. Finally found a tenant, which was the gym that recently got bought over by Equinox. It wasn't a permitted use, and I had to go into the town and seek a zoning change to permit the recreation use in the PLI zone. We were able to prove to the town that we can accommodate the use and the ancillary things that go along with the gym. After that, the original purchaser was occupying the front of the building. He vacated the property, and the front of the building was left vacant for an awful long time. After a period of time, we were able to lease the front of the building to White Plains Hospital. We then also needed to go into the town and get permission to have a zoning change to include that use into the zoning change, into the zone. And that's the procedure that we used at that point in time. This, and now I'll read my letter, which I think is substantial. What our concern is as neighbors is the effect that this is going to have on the area of the whole business park. The intention of having the self-storage is not something that we're opposed to. What we are opposed to is the 50% increase in the FAR and the parking requirements will affect us. If this was to be done with all of the other buildings in the business park, we would have a catastrophe. It would impact the size of Business Park Drive and certainly affect the intersection at Route 22 and Business Park Drive. So if you were to grant this variance, it would be very difficult not to grant that same variance to all the rest of the buildings in the business park. That would create a major issue for the park and devalue our properties. I'd like to read my letter. It's dated 1/3. Dear Mr. Monticelli and other members of the zoning board of appeals. I am the managing member of 99 Business Park Drive and the owner of 99 Business Park Drive. I'm an adjoining neighbor to 100 Business Park Drive. I'm writing to voice my strong objection to the application made by Basis Industrial Acquisition LLC as a contract vendee on the purchase of 100 Business Park Drive from A&R Real Estate Holdings. First, the applicant has no legal right to build a second principal building with a different use on 11.3 acres parcel, which is not subdivided. The proposed use is definitely a second primary use on the property, and it is no way an accessory use. As I understand the zoning code, states that self-storage is not an approved primary or accessory use. Accordingly, without a use variance, this application proposal is illegal. Next, even though the current proposed second principal use is illegal, I will comment on the request on the area variance by Basis Industrial Acquisition LLC is applying for an FAR variance of 0.13. What is allowed in the section 355-23 is 0.30. Proposed FAR is 0.4. This represents a substantial increase by almost 50% above what is allowed in the zoning code. When considering the area variance, the zoning code looks to 6 criteria. I have outlined them below as they have related to this application. Number 1, the variance is or is not substantial in relation to the requirement. The variance is substantial in relation to the requirement. Number 2, that the effect of any population density sway, which may thus be produced upon available services or facilities, is or is not significant. The substantial increase in the size of the building would significantly increase the population density in relation to traffic, parking, and environmental facilities. Number 3, the substantial change in character of the neighborhood or a substantial detriment to the adjoining property owners will not be created. The proposed FAR variance would create a substantial change in the character of the neighborhood and also detrimental to the adjoining property owners, as previously mentioned above. It is important to note that when the property was originally designed as part of the entire business park and subdivided, there was a determination made that the total amount of development. This was then taken into consideration when they're planning the size of the roads and when generating a traffic study. If these variances were allowed, then the careful planning that was done at its inception would no longer be applicable, causing congestion and further impacts on the community and at the intersection of Route 22 and Business Park Drive. There is no other property in Business Park Drive that has 2 buildings on one parcel. There is no other building that has a loading dock in the front of the building. Number 4, that the difficulty can or cannot be alleviated by some other method feasible for the applicant to pursue others than a variance. The solution is to construct the building in accordance with the current FAR requirement. The applicant is self-imposing difficulty by trying to increase the size of the building and not conforming to the code. The increase in the size of the building also increases the required parking, which the applicant is also seeking a variance on. Number 5, that in view of the manner in which the difficulty arose and considering all the above factors, the interest of justice will or will not be served by allowing this variance. The only measure of justice would be to deny this variance that is substantial in relation to the requirement. That would be significantly impact the population density, thus affecting the character of the neighborhood and impacting the adjoining property owners. When the solution is to construct a warehouse within the code does not require further parking requirement variances. Number 6. The variance would or would not cause adverse aesthetic, environmental, or ecological impacts on the property or the surrounding area. The variance would cause adverse aesthetic impacts with the construction of a 146,792 square foot building. It overwhelms the site, grossly exceeds the FAR requirement. The variance would be environmentally and economical impacts on the Byron River is located at the rear of the property. They have already removed 235 town regulated trees, I think it's 215, which has its own ecological impacts. This variance would seek to even further impact the environment. After outlining the points of consideration for an area variance, hope you too will find that the only aesthetic decision, ethical decision, based on a zoning code is to deny the substantial variance application. The second variance they are seeking is a parking variance, which requirements are imposed by the proposed increase in the building size and therefore should also be denied. Thank you both. And I request that the honorable board deny this application on both counts on the area variance requested for FAR and parking. Also, as in conclusion, the surrounding neighbors have all spoken. We are significant taxpayers within our community. My building across the street pays I think about $350,000 a year in real estate taxes. Mr. Lester's two buildings pays about the same. I don't know what. We have rights. We have investments. We believe that our investments and our rights will be negatively impacted if this board grants these two variances. I thank you for your time. I thank you for your consideration. I hope you deny this application in its entirety. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Mike. As you know, because of what we didn't get and Will said, nothing's gonna happen tonight. And I just think that what Gary said, next month is gonna be brought up again. And hopefully we'll have some of that stuff. Anything else, Sherry, like?
What I would suggest is that both the public hearing, after everybody's had their say, be closed, subject to, with the exception that the two attorneys and Mr. Shaffizadeh is representing all of everybody in Business Park.
All right.
And Corey is representing the applicant, so each of them will have until 2 weeks before the date to put in any response to what they've heard. Rather than to reiterate it, all of the three letters I think have been admitted.
I just need a copy of Mr. Lashen's. If you could.
Okay, we'll get that, and then Lori, you'll see that the board members
Just
get this, so they can make a fair set of findings next month. And we will address the legal issues. I would suggest that you notice an executive session next time for the members, because there's some legal issues raised, okay? Other than the two zoning variances, okay? So we would want to get into that if the board wants, or so that notice an executive session before the meeting. And whatever, Lawyer, if you could give us the date 2 weeks before.
Okay, so the meeting is February 2nd. So,
Jerry, we don't want to do the submission at the same time. If Mr. Solomon wants to respond to our letters, they do so by a certain date, then we would have a chance.
No, everybody responds the same time.
But we get a response to it. It doesn't respond to it. We already
You
submitted.
want to respond to what you heard here.
We already submitted our letter.
Well, if you don't want it anymore,
Well, unless he's gonna respond to something, then I think we have the right to
no,
look
no,
at it.
no, no, then we'll be going here until next.
Well, we asked them.
You just
public
submitted,
hearing-
everything that was submitted by Corey in a timely fashion. Whatever the reason, the board got this information on yesterday or whenever it was, so he's entitled to respond without having to sit here and read them all and go over each of the items. So my recommendation to the board is to put the matter over until February.
Second.
Mr. Chair, can I be heard on that? The applicant has.
The
an
applicant
obligation
is,
to submit-
Mr. Shaffizadeh, the applicant has the right to request an adjournment at this point.
Well, I'm fine, whatever that is, but the issue of not us responding, closing the hearing tonight, letting him respond to us. The applicant has to get their project papers into you by a certain date. We have to be noticed. There's a public hearing. That's the purpose of tonight. The public was notified on December 23rd, it's January 5th during the holidays. We submitted our letter. The concept that we have to submit our letter 10 days before the meeting on Christmas Day, when we get the notice on December 23rd, isn't fair to the public. We're not being heard. So we submitted our letter prior to the meeting. We're here tonight presenting our objection to public hearing. They now say we can't say another word about it unless we 2 weeks in advance of the meeting say something that we didn't even know what their response is, isn't fair to the neighbors. Let the applicant submit any response that he has and give us an opportunity to respond. If we don't have an opportunity to respond, the public's not being heard. I mean, we were heard initially, but
Could I
we
make
do
a
that before the
suggestion?
2nd of February?
Could I make a
Response?
suggestion? Excuse me,
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Maybe the solution, because of the compacted timing, is to put this over to the next.
No, the solution could also be that
Let me finish.
that he doesn't get an opportunity to respond to these letters.
Well, that doesn't seem.
I understand that.
Then leave the public hearing open, and let's talk about it the next town.
I was thinking one more meeting would give more time.
If the public hearing is kept open until February, I'm gonna recommend that the board not decide the case until March.
That's what I'm saying.
That's okay.
But this, of course, it's okay with them because they want to protract this as long as it
Well,
can. We can go back and forth with response, comment, response,
That's
comment,
correct,
response.
that's correct. So
It's got to end somewhere and the applicant always gets the last word.
It just started, does it?
This is the first meeting.
We just got here.
This is January.
But we know this
All right.
meeting typically.
Okay.
We're gonna-
So we're gonna, I'm gonna just say, let's move it on to the future. We're not gonna hear anything else tonight. Right?
The applicant showed up a couple minutes late. He had an issue at his house. He would just like to say a few words just to introduce himself to the board, if that would be okay.
yeah,
Okay,
he's entitled to do.
if that's it. After that,
You can't deny it.
the public hearing will be closed.
That means
So
we
this is
can't-
Anthony Scavo from business.
Closed for tonight or in general?
Tonight.
Okay.
And then for next meeting,
We
we'll
can
go up
speak
again,
again.
yeah. We'll open again next meeting,
Thank.
right?
Thank.
Hey, good board.
Thank you.
Anthony Scavo. I represent the applicant. I also live in Armonk. I just moved in. My wife's from here. So we actually found the property when we were looking at my house and broker showed it to us. So I'm also Armonk resident trying to make an investment in the community. I think some of the stuff that was said wrongly. The building's approved already in the same size and shape. So half the stuff that was said tonight, we could just go build right now. So everyone knows the loading in the front, the building, it's all approved. It's approved by a site plan. The only thing we're asking for is to put a self-storage building in a piece of it. And we're willing to tell the board that we will only allow the FAR variance for self-storage use. We're not gonna change it to anything. We'll put that into the amendment. We'll do a developer's agreement. We'll sign a contract. So all the stuff about hurting the property is wrong. There is no more use. Self-storage doesn't bring people. It doesn't bring waste. It doesn't bring bathrooms. There's 2 bathrooms in the whole building. We go through this in every board we go in front of. I go over the country. We build these all over the country. It happens all the time. People are worried that we're gonna use it for something else, and we do the same developers agreement with people, and we only promise we'll use it for that use. And anyone else would have to come back in front of the zoning board and get another variance to change the use. That would eliminate all the problems about increasing sewer size, any more traffic, because there won't be any more traffic. The self-storage is the lowest traffic generating use you can have, basically. And we could bring in a traffic expert to show you that. It's easy. We do it all the time.
And you can put that in writing, what you're just saying,
Of course,
to the appropriate people. Appropriate.
of course. Anyone you want.
Is that your business, self-storage?
And industrial warehouse. But we don't do any other business. We're not like the people that we don't.
No, I'm just curious.
Yeah, we
Is
want-
it proper to ask you the scope of your, where else you do?
We just got a planning board approval in the Rockville Center in Long Island. Around here, we're doing one in Carmel, New York. We're about to open in March. We bought an existing warehouse there. We're converting it to self-storage. We have the same things like this, people don't, people get- self-storage is like weird, because it's more like, what?
No, we know what self-storage means, but, so you're saying your experience is potentially here and 2 other sites, is that what you're saying?
Oh, we have about 12 under development now. We have one in Detroit, Michigan, Arizona,
Underdeveloped.
under development, and we have my team that I work with. I was in Manhattan originally, so I just came to this company about 2 years ago. I'm a partner now. The guys before me built like 40 or 50 self-storage buildings, but that's mostly I built just self-storage development and some existing industrial warehouse buying. So that's why we're buying the Gentile warehouse from Rob, this gentleman, and he's gonna stay as a tenant. And the idea is to build another warehouse and self-storage building. We just think of a warehouse. We personally thought a warehouse was a little too much use for the site, or a warehouse, because that brings a lot of traffic and people. The self-storage building brings a lot less traffic and people. And I live about 5 minutes from there, so I'll be there a lot myself, making sure that the job's going right and everything else. I mean, if you have any other questions about that, what I would think was just being misrepresented, what I want to say is that building's approved without the self-storage. I could go build that building without the self-storage building right now, the same height, same girt. So all the stuff about visual impairment, it's the same visual site. It doesn't change anything what you guys are giving us a variance for. It doesn't change the look of the building. The only thing we're putting in is like 2 floors inside the same building. Just to put more self-storage lockers. And that's what I think was just being missed. Listen, I understand everyone's got their own opinion. It just, that building right now Rob got approved, I think it's 5 years ago. Or 4 years ago, we could build that building right now, another warehouse. And it would just be a warehouse used with a lot more trucks and a lot more people working in the warehouse. I mean, the self-storage people has 2 people working it ever. And I think it's about 4 trips an hour at most with cars. So I mean, I think that's a much less minor use than having a full warehouse. And listen, I agree that the site right now doesn't look, I think the building we're doing is gonna look, it's gonna look like a warehouse, but those self-storage, at least this side will now have a residential look with the self-storage building. It's a little bit more stucco, not as obtrusive as a warehouse. There's a little bit more glass in the front. It looks a little nicer. And we have extra space managing, which is like I think they're the 2nd largest REIT in the country, and they'll be managing it. So, it'll be run right. They have a manager, they have a full cleaning company, a management company that runs it. They have top security. We need to use extra space of public storage, and extra is going to be on this one. So if you have any direct questions about like what we're using it for, that's it. And the other thing is going to be, I mean, I don't think we're going to even have an industrial tenant there. We're going to try to get, it's probably going to be some of like another kind of storage use inside the building.
Make sure what you said tonight. These people here agreed about the same thing, and maybe a copy to,
Listen,
but
I have no problem meeting with anyone who wants to talk about the details of it, the neighbors too. I'm going to try to reach out to them myself after this meeting.
Well,
All right, thank
everybody's had an opportunity to speak, so,
everybody's had opportunity here in the house, in the home. And I want to close the public hearing.
what are you gonna do about, any responses?
You're not closing the public hearing. you're
Yeah, whoa,
adjourning it.
whoa.
No,
Well,
close
Mike,
that tonight, adjourn it till next week. I did that before. Did I tell you
You're not
before?
closing, adjourning.
I said that before.
Determination. is to make sure it's correct.
Semantics.
So this will be brought up in the next meeting.
But if anyone has any written materials, I think you should tell them to get in within 2 weeks, or you're not gonna consider them. That's it.
We've been saying that for 20 years, so we don't.
Well, I know, but it
Well,
doesn't
when's the
seem.
next meeting?
Second,
February 2nd.
So if we back off from February
The
2nd,
19th.
there can't be any new information beyond January 15th,
19.
19th. So
That's
no new additional information
Correct.
can be circulated after. So can you just explain to me if the applicant submits information, how do the
You can only
neighbors-
submit information about 2 variances that have been requested.
Well, I understand.
All right. And if you guys wanted to submit additional information on those 2 variances, submit them.
No, Jerry,
That's my
I
understanding.
understand your point, but this is, please understand my.
It's, otherwise, Mike, this will go on. This is not the
Jerry,
planning
I'm
board.
just asking you a question.
I know.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, you can.
Okay, thank you. So if you're saying that you have 2 weeks to January 19th and no other information is going to be disseminated after July 19th. If the applicant submits additional information between now and January 19th, or if we submit information prior to July 19th, how do the neighbors or does the applicant get our information? How do we get theirs?
Mike, I've only been doing this, I guess, since 1975 in different types of courts. And what the judges usually do is that there's a date and everybody submits at that date. So there's no contest. We're gonna wait 2
Okay.
days, a reply date. This is
There's no last word
Okay,
effectively.
great.
You both,
So
so
anything we want
both
to
of you
submit
could
to the board,
potentially,
submit to the board, we don't have a chance to look at it. They want to look at it.
That's
technically,
correct.
just to let you know,
That's
that's-
correct.
all
No
I'm
no
doing.
back and
you
forth.
can both wait to the last day and submit it, and then that's what it is. If someone puts it, I mean, strategically, you guys can make,
I have
make
no
whatever
problem.
determination.
That's what
I just wanna
lawyers
know the
do.
rules.
I totally get it, I totally get it.
we got this. When did we get this? 4 or 5 days?
We appreciate it, someone wants to get the last word, but
Whatever
I think
gets in here, that's what we agree.
I'm not saying this, both parties or both sets of parties. Candidly, are getting an extra bite at the apple
Right.
because of this next.
I just want to understand the rules, that's all. I'm not objecting to anything, I just
Okay.
want to understand it.
So I think that the rules are by January 19th, either or both parties can make a written submission. And the
And
board will
nothing
accept,
accepted after that.
nothing accepted after that. Okay.
No problem, thank you, appreciate the
And,
understanding.
okay. That's fine.
Thank
Is that good?
Is
Mike?
that-
Yeah, we're all right.
Uh,
Everybody's been
Joe? For the matter of
Someone make
adjournment,
the motion.
then we just put that in a motion.
I'll make the motion to adjourn this application to the next meeting on February 2nd, at which point in time, any additional submissions will be made no later than January 19th.
Very good.
Okay?
Thank you very much.
I'll second it. Second, it. Roll call or, well, let's get a roll call on this. Please.
Scott,
Yes.
Bob,
Wait.
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Lester, and Josh.
Yes. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much for your time as always. Appreciate it.
Been a pleasure.
Been a pleasure.
Yeah, take it off.
Did you go to school, Lee? You know what that idiot son of
Now,
mine
he
did?
said that we can have an
Got in the
executive session
car
before
Where'd you go?
discuss
with
that stuff.
Evan in the back.
You went last night?
They went up to Alforno.
Oh, nice.
and had dinner at
It's a nice night.
And did you watch that?
Yeah, I caught the last end of it. Unbelievable.
Okay.
Yeah. don't forget.
Gary, for myself.
I'm working on both. Okay. Tomorrow, maybe Monday.
Okay, whatever.
Good that you did.
Okay.
We moved this from fourth agenda, so.
Which was the right thing to do, by the way.
I don't.
It was badly.
Well, we only have.
Telling everybody down.
George kind of thinking.
Interested in the executive session. It's like a lot of stuff.
Okay, so, Bob,
We just thought-
I need to find out.
February 11th.
Go right. But no, they keep saying they don't have this one, Josh.
Never went there, but I.
I actually thought I did next.
Even yesterday,
I'll talk.
Everything good? Good seeing you.
Good to see you, Gary.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes, Barbara.
Bye, guys. Have a good night.
I'm not gonna be here on the second. So you only got 4.
I wasn't here today anyway.